Yeah. All right, all right, all right. Welcome back. It is the server room episode 40. It is 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I am super excited. We're going to give it a few more minutes. Let's start at 8:01, making sure that the YouTube channel is receiving content. It is green, as always, a great thing. I have a special, awesome guest for today's special edition of the server room. We are live. It is going. I see the timer. It is 8:01, so let's get started. Welcome back, guys. It is your boy Bernardo from the BTNHD, also the server room, and episode 40. Holy moly. So let's just get straight to it. You see the title. It says Hyper-V, #1 hypervisor in the world, versus VMware, right? So we're gonna go over some of the announcements, and one of the announcements, I am going to introduce a great man that I met, and let's get started. So first things first, with our announcements, I want to give a big thanks for iThinkVirtual, one of the best VMware websites that I have seen. He also has a YouTube channel. Please make sure you go over there. I will provide this Google Doc for everyone. Click on the link, subscribe. He knows what he's talking about. The guy is a 4-time vExpert award winner. Yes, 4-time vExpert. That's not easy to get. He's a sponsor. He's an awesome person for the YouTube channel. I love this guy like he's my brother. First thing is we have a master file link that's going to take you to all of the previous season 1 and also season 2 of the server room. I created a new repo for only BTNHD stuff. This consists of all the scripts and stuff. This is separate from the server room stuff, okay? And this is also the link for the server room. My man from iThinkVirtual, he has his own repo as well. Got to go over there. Has a lot of PowerShell scripts, a lot of VMware scripts. Good to have. I'm thinking about changing the schedule with the server room. I have a busy schedule with work and my son and all that stuff. So I'm debating whether or not to do it every 2 weeks. Q2, second quarter of the year, my goal is to get 50,000. I'm still pushing. We're close. We're almost there. That's an awesome goal. And I want to introduce everyone to the man himself, Alex Lopez from iThinkVirtual. He is the man that I'm competing with, you know, that other hypervisor. And say hello, Alex. Let everyone know who you are. Give us a little history of who you are, and come on, let's do this battle.
Let's do it. How you doing, guys? This is Alex Lopez over here from iThinkVirtual. You guys might know me on the Discord channel as Virtual Alex, aka Reckless. Ready to get this thing on the road. Did a little battle of the hypervisors. We already know who's going to win, though. I mean, let's just say that up front. You know, we know that VMware is obviously superior, but I'm going to give you your fair shot here.
All right. So I guess we're ready. So first things first, we're going to go over some of the basics. So the hypervisor, for those individuals that do not know what a hypervisor is basically a technology or software in which multiple virtual machines can run with the hypervisor layer, right? There's multiple different vendors out there. Some of the major contenders are VMware, right? And another one is Hyper-V, as well as Citrix has their own version, and I believe Zen Server also have it. Thank you, Alex. So there's a lot of vendors out in the market that have it. Some of them are free, some of them are open source, some of them you have to buy it. The ones that we are talking about today, you have to dish out some money. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to go first with the Hyper-V stuff. This is how we're going to break it down. The installation and deployment, we're going to do it dead last. So me and Alex, we're going to go over all the release dates, operating system support, networking, because the documentation is going to be provided at the end. The installation and deployment is going to be the fun part. So this is what we're going to try to push as fast as we can to you guys rather than talking all the gibberish stuff, okay? So for Hyper-V, the release date was October 1st, 2008. Microsoft released it when Windows Server 2008 became in the market. That's when they started releasing it. It wasn't perfect, and they're still working on it. Don't get me wrong. It's it works, right? Now, the operating systems that they do support is Windows OS, which is obvious, right? It's a Windows operating system feature. They do support Linux and as well as FreeBSD operating systems, okay? For networking, they have two parts, which is also a virtual switch and a virtual networking adapter. These two things are necessary. You need them for Hyper-V to work correctly, okay? Within Hyper-V, you can also create 3 type of virtual switches, which I'm going to show you guys during the demo. One is an external, internal, and private. Okay, the external one is the one that gives you, it kind of binds to your physical network, that gives you internet access. If you want to create the internal virtual switch connects to a network that can be used only by virtual machines. This is the concept that I created within my lab to show you guys. And then you also have a private virtual network. Okay. There's 2 types of network adapters with Hyper-V. One is the generation 1, generation 2. It's kind of weird that they have 2 of them. But the second, I believe the generation 1 is the one that's legacy, which allows you to do Windows deployment services. So that means if you're a person that's doing MDT deployment or SCCM within a Hyper-V environment and your machine is using generation 2, and you're probably contacting me or Alex saying, why is my machine not booting into my SCCM? Because also Alex does a lot of SCCM. He's a guru as well doing that. Are you calling me about MDT and saying I can't boot my Hyper-V? It's because probably you have generation 2 and it's not supported. So that means you have to recreate your virtual machine within Hyper-V. Kind of sucks that you have to do that, because once you pick your network adapter, it's locked in. So that means you have to recreate it and make sure you pick generation 1 if you're going to be doing Pixie boot. Now, if you are using UEFI to boot within your network, then generation 2 will work well with your Hyper-V environment. Okay. For scalability, I have a link here. I'm not going to go over all this stuff. The link is going to be provided. You guys can check it out. But this is the max that you could do checkpoints. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. For VMware, snapshots is what you guys capture a kind of like live, kind of like backup of the virtual machine, correct?
Yep. I mean, think of it kind of like even in Windows, right, where you have a system restore point.
Yep.
Right. So anytime you're going to make any type of change or something like that to the system, Windows kind of does them on the back end without you even realizing it every time updates or something get installed. But that's basically the purpose of a snapshot, right? Anytime you want to do some type of a test or a change to your machine, you want to do, take a snapshot beforehand just so that you don't risk corrupting the machine or bombing it, as other people might call, that a lot in the tech space, right?
Yeah.
It kind of just, a CYA, right? A cover your butt type of a point, right? So if something does go wrong, you could literally just press a button that goes ahead and reverts the machine right back to the snap, and you're back in business right at that point in time.
Yeah. So I think that's what's one of the major things between Hyper-V and VMware is that for Hyper-V, they consist of snapshots to be called checkpoints. So the max checkpoints or snapshots, for a virtual machine is 50 within the Hyper-V. For memory, you could get it up to 12 terabytes with generation 2. And for generation 1, you can only get 1 terabyte. That's the size of memory that you can have on a virtual machine. Now, I would love to have a damn server that has a virtual machine with 12 terabytes and more to add for other virtual machines. That'd be pretty fire. Whoever has that within their infrastructure, please invite me. I would love to see that. Now, for fiber, you can also have fiber channel adapters within the Hyper-V environment. The max of it is 4. Hyper-V still has the old school one virtual floppy drive, which is really rare to use, but it's there. For virtual hard disk, the capacity of a machine, you can actually have a 64 terabyte VHD-X. If you don't want to use the X version, you can get away with the VHD, which it gives you 240 gigs. Okay. For virtual processor, up to 240 for generation 2 and 64 for generation 1. So this is hardcore. You got to spend a lot of money to get your virtual machines to these specs. Again, I will provide the link so you guys can have whatever you want. Now, for installation and deployment. Now, for Hyper-V, all right, I've used Hyper-V in VMware, which VMware is crap. But Hyper-V has Hyper-V has different ways to deploy. You could do the core version, which is it's not an operating system which I'm going to kind of explain, because with Hyper-V, you need Windows operating system, right? That's one way. You install the Windows server, then you go inside Server Manager, you install the Hyper-V feature, and then you use it. But you still have the Windows operating system using all those resources. So the Hypervisor is not really taking advantage of the full hardware, right? That's one way, the GUI. Another way is the core, which is really plain. They're just giving you the Hypervisor and is utilizing all the resources from the hardware. That's another way. And then you're also able to deploy it within PowerShell. That's the installation part. Now, for licensing, which is going to be the last part for me, and then it's all for Alex, I like the licensing with Hyper-V a lot. And the reason why is, let's see if I have the link here. And okay, for licensing, one of the cool things about this is that Microsoft provides you a data center or a standard or essential key. Now, if you're running Server 2016 Hyper-V and you have data center, don't think this is the I'm going to zoom in for you guys real quick. So I don't want you guys to think this is the license key to activate your data center. No, this is the key that you will insert your virtual machines. Okay, so once your hypervisor is up and running and you create a virtual machine within Hyper-V, depending on what edition you have, this is the license that you give your virtual machine. So what this does is that the virtual machine has this license, talks to your legit license that you have within your Hyper-V server, and then authorizes it, and you're good to go. And these are like unlimited. Now, I thought I added a link. Let me see if I have the link here. Probably didn't add the link. Let me see if this is the link for pricing. Let's check real quick. So Hyper-V pricing, because the pricing it's pretty crazy with the pricing too. Let's check this person out. All right. So for the pricing, let's go all the way down here. So look, for standard, I'm gonna zoom in for you guys a little bit. For server standard 2008 R2, it's going to cost you around $1,000. That's for 2008. Imagine 2016. And that's per instant. Okay? So it's pretty pricey. And I'm assuming also with VMware, Alex, that it's pricey as well, right?
Very much so. I mean, you can go on VMware's website and register for the free version of the Hypervisor. Which they will give you a free key. It's just very limited into what it actually exposes out and allows you to use within the Hypervisor. It's really intended for like lab purposes, someone who just wants to set up a little demo lab, or even for any of you other enthusiasts out there that just want to stand up like a little white box system. You have a spare computer laying around that you want to turn into an ESXi host. That's like the perfect scenario to register for a free license.
All right. So yeah, so it's all these services are pretty pricey. I think Hyper-V does provide a free version, but it's like very limited to how many virtual machines you can have and how many resources you could provide. Like I just found the link for 2016, so this is what we're working on right now. So for data center, the core base one, about $6,200. That's a lot of money for this. And the major difference is this. For data center, you're going to get the same between the functionality of the Windows server, right? For Hyper-V isolation and unlimited, but for standard, you could get only two. What this basically means, you could only have 2 virtual machines up and running with standard, right? If you dish out $6,200, that means you can have unlimited virtual machines. And I don't recommend having a Hyper-V server running Windows Server plus Hyper-V and a bunch of virtual machines with a quad-core processor with only 24 gigs. That's not going to do it. You got to dish out a hardcore server, and like an actual server that can handle all this stuff for you. Okay? So I'm going to go, and that's it. That's it with me. And it's all Alex.
Sounds good. So I'm not going to cover a lot of the same things that Bernardo was covering here in his documents and and notes and whatnot. I'm just going to cover some of the basic stuff so you guys can read the notes and whatnot after the video is posted up. But that's even what you were just saying right now with Hyper-V, where you have limitations, right, as depending on what kind of hypervisor you stand up, right? That's the good benefit with VMware, is that you don't have a limitation versus what version you buy, right? It's really just what features are enabled, whether you have a standard or Enterprise Plus license. You have two different types of hypervisors. You have type 1, which is bare metal, same as like within Hyper-V. You're literally installing that as the core operating system on your server, and then you use that to build your other virtual machines that are going to run on that hypervisor. The other type is considered a type 2 hypervisor, which is hosted, meaning you have a dedicated machine, a PC or a Mac running Windows or Mac OS. You install an application that comes from VMware. For Windows, it's VMware Workstation or VMware Player. Player only lets you actually play virtual machines. It doesn't let you create virtual machines. Where Workstation Pro lets you fully create virtual machines and run them and manage them the whole nine. VMware Fusion is the equivalent to Workstation, but for Mac users. And then you have ESXi, which ESXi is the actual operating system for the hypervisor. And then you go into vSphere when you have multiple hypervisors and you have a vCenter server, which is what manages. Think of that as like your single pane of glass management interface to manage your entire infrastructure. So you can have all your hosts, put them into a cluster, and manage everything from a single pane of glass window. Hyper-V has something very similar to that, which is their Hyper-V Manager, I believe is what it's called, right? Mm-hmm. Which we're going to go over that. Bernardo's going to show you guys that when he does his losing portion of Hyper-V. But then we have other things too. Once you get an operating system installed in your hypervisor and the machine is up and running, you want to install VMware Tools. Hypervisor has something very similar to VMware Tools. I forget what they brand it, but you know they're just a Me Too company. So
just doing those low blows. I'm
gonna keep throwing jabs. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
This is all for fun, guys. You know, I'm not biased towards Hyper-V. You know, preferably, I mean, VMware is my niche. That's my forte. You know, it's what I like the best when I compare to different hypervisors. But, you know, I mean, not to say anything or discredit Microsoft and Hyper-V as well. You know, it's a solid platform for people who want to use that. Yeah. Like I said, me personally, I choose to use VMware. That's what I like. So VMware Tools pretty much is like what is going to enable all of the drivers and whatnot for everything to talk properly to the virtual machine, to your guest operating system. That's your video graphics, your sound, you know, your mouse input, keyboard, so that everything is actually fluid and you know works the way it should, so that it appears to be like a normal PC. You would never realize that you're actually running inside of a virtual machine.
Now that's one of the things I like about Hyper-V rather than VMware. Like I'm gonna piggyback on what you said. I am neutral as well. I do love Hyper-V as well as VMware. My 9-to-5 job, that's what I use, is VMware. I know. But one of the things I do like about Hyper-V is that when you're installing, they got better. Microsoft has gotten better over the years, each Hyper-V version. But when you're installing, let's say when you have like a Hyper-V 2016 server and you install like a Windows 10 virtual machine, you do not need to install any Hyper-V tools. It's just fluent. There's no extra step. You could take control of the mouse. The keyboard works with no problem. The video card works with no problem at all.
Yeah. That's actually something new that's with Server 2016 when you're using that version of Hyper-V. Mm-hmm. It's what they call integration services.
Correct. Right?
That's the VMware Tools equivalent for Hyper-V.
Yeah.
And by default now, it automatically basically gets applied when you create a virtual machine within Hyper-V.
Yep.
Whereas in VMware, you still have to install the tools. But a lot of times too, like that's actually a benefit, because I have seen, especially with certain Linux appliances and whatnot, VMware Tools sometimes causes issues with the appliance, you know, or tools in general. So they pretty much give you the option. There are some cases where you do not want to have tools installed because it's really just like a core operating system that's going to be running, and you're never going to be using that. You're pretty much going to be terminaling into that operating system using like PuTTY or some type of a shell.
Yep.
Right? So in that case, you don't need VMware Tools really installed on there if everything's communicating and working. The only thing that you would need VMware Tools for is in that same scenario if you had a virtual machine that was using a VMX-Net3 network adapter. That does require VMware tools in order to enable the communication throughput, so that it communicates with the virtual machine. Otherwise, by default, they usually come with an E1000, and that's pretty much just like a generic Broadcom type of Ethernet adapter, which just works right out of the box.
Now, talking about network adapters, with Hyper-V, we have the generation 1, generation 2. Once you have everything up and running, you're able to create an internal, external, as well as private, like a switch manager, to connect your machines to whatever connection, right? With VMware, I know it's a little different because I know you mentioned, I know I've seen in the past like E1000 kind of connections, and then also the one that you just mentioned, what is it?
VMX-Net3.
Yeah. So what's the difference between the networks adapters?
Well, just like I said before, really, like the E1000 is pretty much the default, which, like I said, is just a generic standard Ethernet adapter. Like think of it like just an Intel Broadcom adapter that's plugged into your main PC. VMX-Net has additional features. I can't really get into that because I'd have to look up to show you the exact specifics as to what it is. And pretty much every time I've looked stuff up, like it's just generic information, but it basically provides better communication and better throughput to the virtual machine from the host using that type of adapter. It's what VMware recommends as their best practice, to always use a VMX-Net3 adapter.
Yep.
But you have your other types. There's like I think there used to be a Flex. I don't know if there still is or not.
Yeah, I think that was like back in like 3.5 kind of era.
Flexible. You had there was just VMX-Net. There was VMX-Net2, and then they rebranded it to VMX-Net3. So obviously they've done their work and tried to make it a little bit better, in each iteration of the adapters.
Yeah, because they're always fixing stuff. Microsoft Hyper-V only had 3, and it always worked. So it always worked. They always had the external, internal, and private, and they never had issues with no networking adapters. As long as you have at least a physical network adapter for your management port and a secondary to do your other traffic, you were good to go.
Yep. I mean, and that's the same. Say the same with VMware. I mean, VMware's adapters, it's not like they ever had issues with them. They just gave you choices as to different types of adapters that were used for different, purposes and whatnot. So, but by default, the VMX-Net3 is the way you want to go. Me personally, every machine that I stand up, I use a VMX-Net3 adapter. Unless it's something like real quick for a test where I don't need to worry about having tools installed. I got to do something for 5 minutes in a machine. I'll just use an E1000 because I'm eventually going to blow the machine away.
Got it.
So I don't really worry about it too much. But to go on a little further, I mean, guest OS compatibility within VMware is pretty much anything and everything, right? You have all your different Windows operating systems that you can run within it. There's different sets of tools. Like, let me go back to VMware tools, right? You have the newer set that came out starting with, I believe it was version 10.0, where that newer set was for Windows Vista and above. And then they had 10.0.12, which was for like XP and below. Anything legacy 2000 type of machine is what you wanted to use those legacy VMware tools on, which they haven't released any more updates to.
Yeah.
That's the furthest version that goes up to. There's release notes you could look up, VMware tools. I often post them in the Discord as well too, anytime that there's new ones released. But you have all the different flavors of Linux. You can run Mac OS within VMware. The limitation, the caveat to that is that you need to be running your ESXi host on official Apple hardware for it to be officially supported by VMware. There are other methods around that. There are hacks that people do. Me personally, I've done it myself, but I cannot preach that stuff because you have to follow best practice and what's actually supported by VMware.
Yeah, because I've seen a couple of people actually done it in the past, and sometimes it kind of messes up their machine.
Yep,
because
absolutely.
Yeah, because the slightest thing you do with that what's that main file that holds all the settings within the VMware?
VMX.
Yeah, the VMX. If you do the slightest little problem, your machines just go kaboop.
Yep. I mean, and 9 times out of 10, like these other hack methods, I mean, they don't really touch the VMX file too much. They're actually manipulating the system files that run your hypervisor in order to enable that functionality. It's good for people who just want to do like a demo test environment real quick and have something up and running. I would not say that that's something to be used in production. Again, it's not supported. You know, if you were to ever have an issue and you raised the support case with, you know, VMware and they came across and saw that you had these hack things done on your server or whatever, they're going to tell you, you know, see you later. I'm not going to help you because you're not using a supported platform. So just to get that out there, you know, always follow best practices. You know, I'm always going to preach that. But I mean, it's great because you can even do other stuff. Like I've been demoing, you know, using standing up like little firewalls and stuff like that. I've been testing out like Sophos firewalls. I've been doing standing up, you know, VMware, you know, ESXi and the vCenter appliance as a VM within Workstation, within Fusion. You know, you have that compatibility there too. That's running Photon OS, you know, using their vCenter server appliance. They're moving away from the Windows-based version of vCenter.
Yeah.
The next iteration of vSphere that comes out, they're going to completely do away with it. It's going to be deprecated. You're going to have to use the VMware appliance. And I've shown it to you before. I know you like it. You're a fan of it.
Yeah, big fan.
I'm a fan of it. You know, at first when it came out, you know, I was very anti. You know, I was still, you know, a Windows guy. I like using the Windows version of it. And then you realize there's so much overhead with Windows. God forbid, you know, a Microsoft patch comes out and it breaks your system.
Yeah.
Your server environment's gone. You know, your database gets corrupt. Your vCenter, you know, is not functional. So they've made the appliance so much better, and it's easier to patch and manage and everything. I mean, I absolutely love it. So
yeah, but that's one of the things I love about hypervisors. It's like it's a software like VM Workstation, right, or Hyper-V that you could just create multiple virtual machines and destroy them, and not worry about physically losing anything because it's just like a testing machine rather than destroying a processor like with a physical machine, right? You could just take advantage of a small little container, like push it to the extreme, and if it gives up, it gives up, but the physical hardware is still intact.
Exactly, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I love it. I mean, I preach use VMs for everything. You know what I mean? Just because of the, you know, the ability that you have to pretty much do anything and everything with them, right? And when you're done with them, you know, you can power them off and save them for later, or, you know, completely blow them away and, you know, stand up another one later when you're ready to, or, you know, like we were talking about before with snapshots, you know, before you make a change to something, you know, you take a snap. I always advise to take a snapshot anytime you're going to make any type of change to a system.
Yep.
Just best practice, you know, for me is don't ever let that snapshot sit around for longer than 48 to 72 hours. Running your machine every single day with snapshots tied to it does degrade the performance of the machine. Most people to the naked eye, they wouldn't even really notice the difference, but
eventually, yeah, the older it gets, the stale it gets stale. It just gets it's the same thing with Hyper-V. Hyper-V, you create these checkpoints, and you think everything is smooth and running because you have this powerful machine with all this memory and all this processor. But you got to understand that checkpoint or that snapshot in VMware is attached to that virtual machine. It's hurting that virtual machine. It's not hurting the physical machine. So eventually, if it stays there and it gets older and older and older and older, it's going to slow down your machine. I learned that the hard way when I was getting into the virtual reality, the virtualization stuff world. I learned that the hard way. I was snapshotting every day, and my thing just piled up, and I had like maybe hundreds of snapshots. And I was wondering why in the hell I have all this memory. I have like 128 gigs of memory, a bunch of processors. I was just going nuts. I was like, why is this machine running so slow? And I added more memory. I added more CPU, and it's still running slow. And I found out it's because of the checkpoints. So once I deleted all the checkpoints, it was running smooth. But like he said, my best practice as well, what I do at my 9-to-5 job, even at my home lab or the BTNHD lab, when I'm doing any major update to the machines that I work with you guys for the server room, I take a snapshot of it. If everything goes successful, I delete the snapshot and I add that virtual machine, or I make sure that virtual machine's in queue to back it up for the night backups. And then you're good to go.
And
now,
then delete that snap once you're done, and you're good to go. You know.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned about the operating systems, and I wanna zoom in over here to the VMware guide, because I gotta give it to VMware, okay? Because VMware, I'm gonna zoom in real quick, and I'm a neutral guy. And one of the things I love about VMware, and the reason why I use it at my 9-to-5 job, is because of this. Look at all of the operating systems that this guy, this whack hypervisor supports. All right, they just can't make up their mind. Just pick a couple of damn operating systems, but they even have 10.9. They even have that. You know, the Red Hat, they have a lot of them. They just can't make up their damn mind, right? Right?
They're just really giving you that choice, man. They're making it very broad so that you can run anything and everything. I mean,
but what breaks my heart is this. They already got Windows Server 2019 as an OS family name.
Yep.
Like, wow. We're still
put that in there in advance.
Look at that. It's just VMware, you need to make up your damn mind. Pick 1 or 2 operating systems. What the hell is all this?
Why would you want that? Then you're limited, right? You're limited to only using those 2 OSs.
All right. So what else, Alex? What else you got?
I mean, I think I've covered pretty much all the basics and stuff like that. Maybe one of the other things is just like the scalability using, VMware and stuff like that too. They usually term it, being able to scale up or scale out. Scaling up is pretty much adding fewer but beefier servers, right? So you have fewer servers in your cluster, but they're workhorses, right? They have, a ton of memory, RAM. They have huge hard drives if you're using internal storage for like vSAN and stuff like that. Tons of CPU cores and whatnot. Just beefy systems, right? Those are good for a smaller environment where you don't need as many hosts, but at the same time you run the risk of, if that machine goes down, right? You're running, usually the typical is like a 20-to-1 ratio, right? 20 VMs per ESXi host, right? On one of these beefier systems, let's say you can run 40 virtual machines or 50 VMs on a single host, right? And God forbid something happens and that host goes down, and you don't have high availability enabled or something like that, where it's going to automatically power them onto another host in the cluster. That's a whole bunch of machines. That's a significant amount of machines that are just going to go down and crash on you, right? And you better hope that you have some means to be able to restore them or get them back up and running fairly quickly. Because if not, that's a typical what we like to call is it an RGE?
Yeah.
A resume generating event.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right, us in the tech world, we're familiar with that. Hopefully nobody's experienced that, but you always want to make sure you have yourself covered, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to have to do an RGE.
Yeah, but that HA, the high availability from VMware, is not free. From my understanding, you have to have a certain license to get that enabled. Don't get me wrong. VMware could be free, but you're very limited of how many cores you could use, and you can't really use all the goodies behind the scenes if you have, like, for example, like a standard or enterprise. Right.
Well, just to go on a little bit beyond that, right? In order to be able to use any of these advanced features like distributed resource scheduler, right, which automatically load balances across your cluster, to use high availability, all this stuff requires a cluster, right? So that means multiple ESXi hosts joined together in a single cluster so that machines can evenly balance across them. And to have that, you have to have a vCenter server in order to be able to make a cluster.
Yep.
Right. So that right there is where an expense comes into play as well, because that's a separate license.
Yeah.
To have vCenter server. But I mean, there's a lot of benefits. You know what I mean? Just like even with Hyper-V, Hyper-V has their Hyper-V manager, which you can use that to make.
Yeah, but if you own a Windows 2008 R2 and up standard, it comes included as a server feature. Even though you're limited to only 2 virtual machines, which is not that bad, right? Yeah. But if you cough up a little bit more money and get that data center license, you get unlimited. But you still, it's part of it. Everyone is running a server 2008. So you automatically have the feature. You got it for free. For VMware, you gotta sign into the account, create a user account, log in, and download the ISO, and then you have to create a USB. That's too much work, man. Hyper-V, guys. Hyper-V's already in your systems. Just go and just do it. Forget about VMware.
And let's clear something up too, though, right? I mean, where they say it's unlimited amount of VMs and stuff like that. It's not truly unlimited. It's limited to the amount of resources that you have.
Correct. And yes, thank you for correcting, Matt. Yes, it's unlimited, but it's like you have to read between the lines, because if your machine is not capable of handling unlimited virtual machines, it's not really unlimited.
Yeah,
okay.
Whatever it could support on that host that it's running, right? Because it's consuming those host resources, so it's If that machine, if that host only has, 64 gigs of RAM in it, and a 12 core processor, let's say, or an 8 core, or a quad core, right? You're limited to those specs because each VM is borrowing little chunks of those resources.
Yep.
So that's where they get you, where they say it's unlimited. It's really, it's as much as that host can support, right?
Yep.
It's just like when you hear lifetime warranty on stuff, right? It's not fully lifetime. It doesn't mean lifetime from when I buy something till the day I die. It's that product's lifetime.
Yeah.
If that product, disbands and goes away in a year, you're SOL, right?
Yep.
You just paid X amount of money to have a lifetime warranty for something that's now gone in a year.
This is
and
true.
You're not going to get that back.
This is true.
But we're deviating from the topic a little bit, but and the other thing was being able to scale out, right? Which is actually my preference rather than scaling up. Scaling out is basically just adding more ESXi hosts to your environment, but they don't have to be big beefy systems, right? And that's a little bit less of a risk in that sense because you're not going to run as many virtual machines on a certain host.
Okay.
So if one does go down, it's fewer machines that you're going to have to worry about trying to recover or something like that, or that need to power up onto other hosts. And you can add as many hosts as you want, into your cluster. I mean, there are configuration maximums. I didn't cover them in the notes, but we can always add them to these notes later.
Yep.
To tell you, exactly how much disk, CPU, RAM, everything can support on a single ESXi host and go beyond that. I mean, but the amounts are out, they're out there. I mean, we're talking terabytes of RAM, terabytes of, storage. I mean, a boatload of CPU power and stuff like that. So they're really beefy systems, but I highly advise anybody out there, anyone who wants to get into virtualization, look into both. Look into, Hyper-V, look into the ESXi, VMware. You guys make, your best decision. Use your own discretion as to which hypervisor you feel is the best.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alex. For everyone that's watching, I appreciate you guys showing some love. We are not here, or we do not get paid to advertise these products. I'm not telling you to go Hyper-V, even though, it's all fun and games and stuff. Alex is not going to tell you guys, go to VMware. It's up to you guys. I would say, even though I'm saying go to Hyper-V, go to Hyper-V first. And the reason why is because the majority of you guys already have a Windows Server 2008. And you can start experimenting with it. You could test it out, test the waters, get your feet wet. If you enjoy it, you like it, step up your game. Go inside VMware, see what they bring. And then you have both hypervisors running within your infrastructure and see which one will work out for you. That's the way I started. I started with Hyper-V. And then I wanted to step up my game, and I saw that VMware had a lot of HA and FT, like fault tolerance and hyper availability. It had all that stuff, clustering. I love that stuff. That stuff got me excited, and that's what I implemented at my 9-to-5 job because we had the budget and we had good to go. Within my 9-to-5 job, I do have a Hyper-V cluster. Don't kill me on that one. It's because we had the budget, so I went for it, and we got the 2016 version. But yeah, I mean both vendors are great. Both, yeah. All right, so Alex, I think we are in the part of the demo and installation. Who wants to go first?
Well, let's have you go ahead. You go first. Show your Hyper-V stuff because we're gonna save the best for last, right? That's how it's gonna work, right? And hopefully, you guys out there, anybody who's a part of the Discord and stuff as well too. For you guys who are new to the channel, to the stream. Visit my blog, visit Tech Zero's blog. We have links as well that you can join our Discord server and stuff as well. Under the Hypervisors category, there's an announcements channel within there. I posted a little poll. So after the stream, if you guys want, please show us some feedback in there, in any of the channels and whatnot. But do vote on the poll. Let us know, who you feel won the battle of the Hypervisors, and even what's just your preferred, hypervisor of choice. So. Let's go ahead and get to it. So
I'm just saying, before I start, whoever votes for Hyper-V, I will personally do a video request of whatever problem you have.
Now you're trying to sell stuff. You're trying to get people to buy into it. See, I'm not even going to do that.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Speak for itself.
I'm just joking. I have no time to do stuff like that. All right, so let's get it going. So I got a PowerPoint as always. I love
real quick, Tech Zero. Before you go, I just want to apologize first. I know there's a lot of people chatting and stuff like that in the chat rooms. It's kind of hard for both, Bernardo and I to be actively looking at the chat while we're trying to do a live stream. So if we don't get to you in the chat, I'm going to apologize now in advance for the both of us.
Yeah.
We'll do our best to try to get to you guys. If not, like I said, do join the Discord. Feel free to always ask us there and stuff like that. It's better for us because you'll catch a live body. Pretty much, Bernardo and I are on that, every day.
Yeah, I agree. We're there 24/7. I mean, I want to give a big thank you to Alex. He's been like really hooking up the Discord with rules, channels, bots. I mean, it is amazing. It is the place to be. The Discord is growing each day, and it's free. Why not take advantage of being around a lot of great minds that are having the same problems that you or probably already have a solution, and you're just trying to find help. We do advise, do not go in there, leave a question, and just expect one of us to answer. If you have steps of what you've done so far, leave them. Help us out. You guys do the same thing to your users at your office, right? What have you done so far? Okay, you rebooted. Or you deleted this. Where did you delete it? Give us steps of what you've done so far so we could go in there and help you. All right?
Exactly.
All right. So
always encourage you to do your initial triage and stuff like that first before, you come in and try to ask for help. I mean, we don't have all the answers. We're tech geeks as well, just like you guys. We try to provide as much information as we can from our knowledge. And, we love sharing knowledge to other people because you viewers are the new up and coming generations and breeds of IT people. So, the Discord is all about all of us sharing with one another, learning from one another. It's not a place for you guys to just go and constantly just ask for help. We want you to be able to provide some stuff back as well too. So, be active in the community and stuff like that. Be active in the Discord, and it's a great place to be. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Do give us feedback on the Discord. Be sure to give us feedback on the videos. Shout out to Ben King. He's also part of our Discord, and I know he's in the chat here too. He's really active and stuff as well too, and trying to help people out and at least advise them or let them know like what our thoughts are pretty accurate.
Yeah, I don't want. Me and Ben are not friends anymore. You converted him to VMware. He used to be a Hyper-V all the way, and you converted him. I
converted a few people, but it's like I said, you guys use your own discretion, what you guys prefer and stuff like that. Like I said, I personally choose VMware. That's my my platform. Bernardo uses, both of them. I'm sure he has his preference, but he uses them both. I mean, I've always been a VMware guy. I have, 6 of their certifications. I have, numerous vExpert awards, and big shout out to VMware for, for acknowledging that and recognizing me as a vExpert in their software and their platform. And, can't wait to, get more of them, get more certifications and stuff like that under my belt. But
awesome.
Let's go ahead. Let's get to it.
All right. So I'm going to start right here. As always, the Hyper-V versus VMware. The PowerPoint will be provided for you guys at the end of the show, so do not worry. So we're going to get started. We're going to install Hyper-V Manager. Install Hyper-V Manager is super simple. If you have an operating system like 2008 and up, you can basically just go in Server Manager, go to Manage, add roles and features, click on Next, Next again, and there you go. Click on Hyper-V. Now, if you click on Hyper-V, which I don't show you with this PowerPoint because the machine that I have supports Hyper-V, you got to make sure that the processor supports hyper-threading as well, I think, is Intel VT. If your processor does not support that, you are not able to install Hyper-V. There are ways to do that. There's ways to configure to get around it, but I think Alex will agree with me. We don't recommend that because there's always a 50-50 chance that you could break something, and it's not really best practice. Okay, so once you pick your Hyper-V, the way that you know that your machine is supported is that you're going to get this. If you get this, you're golden. You're gonna click Add the Features, click Next, and I always like to install .NET Framework. It's not a requirement, but I like to install it just for the hell of it for future reference. But again, you don't really need to install it. So click on Next on that, click Next on that, Next. And with Hyper-V, if you have multiple network adapters, for me, I only had one, but eventually I added an additional one. I created my entire Hyper-V server within Azure. which we're going to go over that pretty soon. You're going to pick your adapter, and it also allows you to do migration. Now, you could allow the server to send and receive migrations of virtual machines to other Hyper-V managers. They give you the option for that. If you enable this, you could do it through two ways, through Kerberos or through the credential security support provider. Okay, can't really tell you pick this one, this is the best one, or this one is the best one. It really depends on how you have your security set up within your infrastructure. Okay, once you pick that, click on next, and the default location, by default, it's going to drop it inside the root of where the operating system is at. I don't recommend this. I do recommend to you to have like a RAID 5 or a RAID 10 partition within your server to drop this information in and make sure that that partition is being backed up. But for me, for the hell of it, I dropped it as the C drive, but I did change it when I started working on the server, which I'm going to show you guys. Click next and hit install. And once you hit install, it's going to say this. And done. That's it. You're going to restart your machine. Once you restart your machine, you're going to come back, and which I restarted, and hit continue on server 2016, and you're done. Now, once you restart your machine, you're only going to get the Hyper-V Manager. So the Hyper-V Manager, the way that you can locate it is you click on Server Manager, or you could go inside Windows Administrative Tools and just locate Hyper-V. I did it the hard way because I'm very hard-headed. So I clicked on Server Manager. And within Server Manager, the only reason why I did Server Manager because I wanted to show you guys that the Hyper-V service and role is up and running, and it's green. It's always a good thing when it's green. But if you click on Tools up here, if you click on Tools, you go to Hyper-V Manager. Okay. Once you click on Hyper-V Manager, you're going to see that the Hyper-V Manager is up and running. So this is the console that you're going to be working with. Now, I don't recommend that you log into your server every time to get into the Hyper-V Manager. Okay, there are ways to access the Hyper-V role from a remote machine with Windows 10 or Windows 7, which I'm going to show you guys when I do the Hyper-V core. Because right now this is the graphical user interface one, and I don't like this version because it's too many things happening behind the scenes. You have the Windows operating system interface running and taking resources. You know, Windows Server 2016 is hardcore with the resources. It takes a lot of memory. It's constantly talking back and forth to the Windows to make sure that it's licensed correctly. You have Windows updates. Then you got Hyper-V stuff that's running. It's a headache. I don't really recommend it this way. But if you have the hardware that supports it and is able to handle all those resources, go for it. Now, Hyper-V switch management port. When you click on the network adapter, when you set it up, this is how it looks. If you have multiple, most likely you have the one that you pick for your management point. And if your server has multiple network adapters, you're going to see it here. Okay, this one is the one I pick, and this is how it converts it within Hyper-V. Now, creating a new VM is super simple. You just right-click on your host, right? You right-click on your host, and you go to New. And you're going to get this nice little wizard. You're going to give it a name. And from here, you can actually tell it where you want to store it. And you click Next. This is very, very important when it comes to Hyper-V. I know with VMware, you're able to switch network adapters on the fly, which is one of the things I love about VMware. But with Hyper-V, I don't know why you did this, Microsoft. You are a pain in everyone's butt. But this part here, they even tell you, once a virtual machine has been created, you cannot change its generation. Why? Why would you do that? So you got to really make sure you pick the correct generation. All right. If you are deploying your operating systems using unified base firmware, this is the way that you want to do it. If you're still using like WDS or MDT and you want a Pixie boot, do generation 1. For me, I always like to do generation 1 just for the hell of it, just to make sure I don't have any problems. And from here, you could do your startup memory. By default, it gives you 1 gig, but you can max it out. If you pick dynamic memory, Hyper-V will kind of somewhat manage your memory for you. So if I tell it 4 gigs, you have a pool of 1 gig to 4 gig, and then Hyper-V will say, okay, he's not really using 4 gigs. He's only using 1 gig, so let's give him 1 gig for now. And if he needs the extra gigs, we give it to him little by little. I think this is a good feature, but sometimes it could bite you in the butt. You pick your connection. I only have one network adapter, but when I was inside the server, I did create multiple adapters. And I created a Ubuntu, a Linux. By default, it gives you 127 gigs. Like I said, the max is 64 terabytes. You could change that and click next. And you can actually tell it ISO, or if you have a physical CD DVD, or if you're doing a virtual floppy disk. I've never seen anyone do this. If anyone does this, please take a screenshot and shoot it to me. I would love to see how that works out. I normally do install operating system later. And once you do that, nice little summary, you hit finish. And then once everything is done, it's going to start configuring the server. And there it goes. That's the server right there. How awesome is that? Look at that. So beautiful. Nice and blue. Love that color. VMware don't got that. It's just so plain. It's hollow. All right, so so from here, when you right click on the server, you have multiple options. You want to go to setting, and within settings, this is where you go and mount your ISO, or you're able to change the processor, which I'm gonna zoom in for you guys. You're able to change the memory. This is another cool feature that they added within Server 2016, the key storage drive. This is an extra security. I believe it encrypts your hard drive. I need to look up on this, because this is the first time me seeing this. But I need to do more research on that. From here, you pick your DVD drive, and you mount your ISO, and you locate it. So I located the Linux one, and once you locate it, you press OK. And you connect. You right click on it, you hit connect, and you hit that big power button right there, and it's going to start launching up. And once it starts launching up, then you will install the operating system like you normally install it. It's that simple. And again, like the tools are already integrated. It's not like VMware. You got to click on it, and then to get out of it, you got to do, like, I believe, a Control-Alt command or something like that to get your keys, to get your mouse back. But you're automatically able to click on it, start using it naturally with the keyboard as well as the mouse. Now, this is like all the installation stuff, super simple. Again, this PowerPoint will be provided for you guys at the end of the show. Now, the other way, the way I like to use Hyper-V is the core installation. The core installation is no operating system. This is how it starts. You click on next. I'm going to go through this real quick. Install. It's going to start setting up the files, accept the license. I did a custom install. I did 127, but you can add additional hard drives to it. And it's going to start installing. And then once everything is done, it's going to reboot. It's going to reboot to the Windows operating system. And the first thing that you need to do is just assign an admin password. Okay, just press OK. And the interface looks just like a Linux kind of platform, but it doesn't have the user interface. Okay, so you're using command prompt, and then once you enter your new password and you confirm it, it's going to give you or start up the sconfigure loading, which is this guy right here. And this is what you're working with. That's it. There's no user interface. You're not clicking on server manager and clicking here and clicking here and clicking here. You follow the command prompts. You pick one to change the domain, the computer, add a local account. You enable Windows updates. You could disable, enable remote desktop. You could do everything here. Now within my infrastructure, I added everything within a domain controller, which I'm going to show you guys, so do not worry about that. Now, how to manage your Hyper-V. Now, to manage your Hyper-V core or even your Hyper-V server from a remote location, because us admins, especially me, I'm not going to remote desktop into my server to launch a Hyper-V manager to manage virtual machines. That doesn't make any sense, right? So you want to install something within your workstation so you're able to manage this stuff within your workstation, right? Don't touch the server at all. So with Hyper-V or with Hyper-V Manager, with Windows 10, they already have it within the Windows features. So you could go to the control panel, programs and features, go to Windows, features on and off, and just locate Hyper-V. And just make sure you check the Hyper-V management tools. And you pick the ones that you want. Hyper-V works really, really well with PowerShell. I love using PowerShell, especially with Hyper-V. Hyper-V has their own commandlets. So if you love PowerShell, I would definitely say try PowerShell with Hyper-V. It would save so much because you're able to script within PowerShell and create a virtual machine from the ground up with the network, a hard drive, and everything. It's really, really cool. Press OK.
You do that in VMware too.
Yeah, VMware. VMware could do that too. Yeah. But
I'm just joking. I'm just messing around. Go ahead.
It's gonna start searching for the required files. If you want, for me, I like to reboot the machine, but you don't have to. But when you go inside Start and you go inside your administrative tools, you're going to see the Hyper-V Manager there. Just click on it. And when you click on it, it's not going to have a server because you need to establish the connection. So you're going to right-click on the node right here. You're going to click on this node, right-click on it, and connect to server. And then add your server. Now, these machines are all added into my Active Directory. I have an Active Directory within my Hyper-V Manager. The Hyper-V Manager is hosting the Hyper-V core. And the Hyper-V Manager, which is within Azure, which Azure actually uses Hyper-V Manager, is... yeah, it's like a huge nested loop within this Hyper-V Manager. So I just basically gave it vhost03, which is the name of the core, and I checked name. It was authorized. Boom, that's good to go. And I press OK. And if everything works well, you got your Hyper-V. All right. So I'm going to show you guys real quick how it looks live. So this is the machine right here. This is the server. Okay, I'm remoting in. I'm gonna see if I can show you guys. I'm gonna minimize this real quick, and I'm using Azure. This is the machine that's running right now, vhost02. Azure, the backend of Azure is Hyper-V. So this machine is Hyper-V, and I have Hyper-V Manager within here, and the core is Hyper-V. And my Windows 10 has Hyper-V Manager connected to my core, and I'm able to right-click on it, go to New, Virtual Machine, and go all the steps and do what I need to do with Hyper-V. Now, with the network adapters, no, don't do that. With the network adapters, you can go into switches, and I have a private one. The private one is where all these virtual machines are hooked up to. They have their own private IP address, and they're all talking to one. And this one right here is the network adapter, which is my management port, which allows me to manage the in and out traffic. It's always best practice that you do not want your virtual machines to be in the same port where your management is at, because then that management is the incoming outgoing traffic is just, it's going to be a bottleneck, and then your machines are going to be really slow getting updates and all that stuff. So just separate the network. So yeah, that's what Hyper-V is all about. It's super simple getting up and running. Again, I do love my Hyper-V sometimes, and sometimes it's a pain in the butt. It does work extremely well when you're using PowerShell. I really love using PowerShell, and I love using the Hyper-V core because it makes more sense. You're not using, or you don't have a Windows operating system taking the resources. It's plain, it's just there, it's easy to manage. The only thing I do recommend is that if you're using Windows Core or you're using Hyper-V, it has to be part of a domain. It makes it much easier if it's part of a domain. The reason why is because if you're off a domain, you have to go inside Firewall, you have to go inside the Windows Remote Management, and have to create like a whitelist to trust other machines to access this core, this Hyper-V Manager server, to have access to it to another machine. So it makes sense that everything is part of a domain because it makes life much easy. Okay, so that's my Hyper-V. And we're going to end the show here because Hyper-V won. Yeah! All right, so we're gonna take it to Alex, and we're going to see what Alex has to bring with VMware. I'm going to go to sleep right now. I'm going to pass out because I know there's a little...
Yeah.
We're going to go to sleep. It's sleep time.
might want to get your box of tissues ready there. You know, we don't want to see you crying. I mean, I'm going to apologize to everybody in advance now for when Bernardo does start to cry and realizes that, you know, Hyper-V is really just not that great a platform. Now, let me stop. Like I said, I'm not biased. I'm not going to say that one's better than the other. But yeah, Bernardo's a big, you know, PowerPoint type of person. He likes to do all his little demos, you know, and provide, you know, PowerPoint slides and stuff like that. I'm more of a live demo type of person. So I actually built a little demo VM. I'm actually going to stop sharing myself and I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see that. If it lets me over here. Okay.
See, if he was running his system in Hyper-V, this wouldn't happen.
Sure. No, I think because you switched it over, it did something and it minimized the window, or it's not bringing up the option for me to share. Just give me a second here, guys. I'm trying to figure. I'm new to this whole Zoom thing, so I'm trying to figure out how to share it properly. Did you do anything on your end there, Bernardo, that switched the video?
Nope.
All right. I might have to drop real quick and then join back in so that it brings up the menu for me, because I don't know what happened to it.
Or do you have it on full screen?
I don't believe so. All right, there we go. Hold on. We're getting there. We're getting there. Sorry, guys.
All I'm saying, if it was running Hyper-V,
yeah.
it'd have been smooth.
All right. Let me know if you guys can see that now.
See. I just want to let everyone know that he easily converted into Hyper-V, and that's why it started working.
Yeah. Let's cut all those lies out right now. All right. So as you guys can see, if you guys can see my screen here, right? Bernardo, you can see it, right?
Yep, I can see it. I can see it clear.
It should be good. I know this other part here is just showing myself. You guys got to forgive me. I'm new to this whole Zoom feed thing here. So, all right. So you guys can see here, this is actually a VM that I built, a little nested environment, domain controller. I'm using a single self-contained VM on my PC running in VMware Workstation. And then within this VM that's in VMware Workstation, I installed VMware Workstation. So I'm doing a little nesting here, right? And I might have you muted or something. I don't hear you talking, Bernardo.
No, I'm right here.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, I actually have a vCenter server appliance up and running, so we can get to that part later. But I'm going to go ahead and do a demo of installing VMware ESXi 6.5, right? So I'm using, you know, pretty much bare minimum. Processors is actually two processors is bare minimum, 4 gigs of RAM, but I give it a little bit more just to make the installation a little faster. I already have an ISO mounted to this virtual machine. So this is a good thing, right? You can actually do nesting of hypervisors, right? And build a VM of ESXi within Workstation just to kind of test it out if you ever wanted to, you know, give VMware a test run and don't have the means to build an actual server. You can do a little nested environment within Workstation or VMware Fusion, which is great, right?
Yep.
So I already have that attached. I gave it a little 16 gig hard drive, which is going to be my boot volume. And then the other disk is just a quick little 100 gig drive, which is actually going to be for my data store, where I would actually be making additional VMs on the hypervisor. I'm not going to do that in this. I'm just going to show you how to stand up the hypervisor. But that's what these disks are meant for. And then we have a few network adapters. I added 4 to this machine. 2 of them are going to be for the management. The other 2 are going to be dedicated for the virtual machines. I like to have redundancy for every one of my management interfaces and stuff. So these 2 will be bound to my management switch. The other 2, I'll create a separate switch for virtual machines. If you start adding in other things to the mix, like storage, shared storage, vMotion, things like that, you're going to want to have obviously extra network adapters. The exception to that obviously is if you're running like 10 gig links, right? If you have 10 gig NICs, then you really only need 2. That would be the only exception I would say to even what Bernardo said earlier about not wanting to have virtual machines on the same interfaces as your management traffic, because it creates a bottleneck. But obviously, if you do have 10 gig NICs, I mean, it's there for a reason, right? It's 10 gig for a reason. So, and we use that a lot. Usually you'll see that a lot in the enterprise when people are running, like HP Blade servers or whatever for their environment. Usually a lot of them have like 10 gig uplinks, unless they went the cheaper route and just did 1 gig NICs. But for this demo, I'm just using these 4. So I'll go ahead and power this bad boy on. We'll just say I copied it. It thinks that I moved it. Okay, I'll boot the CD-ROM. So this is what you'll get initially when you first boot up into the media. So we're going to click to install it.
So this right here, Alex, the VMware ESXi 6.5 is just like Hyper-V Core.
Correct. This is the bare metal installation. So like I mentioned earlier, Type 1 hypervisor. Same as with Hyper-V, you have your Hyper-V Core, which is your Type 1 hypervisor, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a regular Windows operating system and you enable the Hyper-V feature, that would be a Type 2 Hyper-V, hypervisor. Whereas in VMware, I'm using VMware Workstation as my Type 2 hypervisor. So I'm using a Type 2 hypervisor to install a Type 1 hypervisor as a demo.
Okay.
And if there is a little bit of lag, I mean, it is using a lot of resources on the machine. So you might see a little bit of a lag or a delay in it. But
Remember the installation of VMware vSphere, because I think they changed the name. They don't call it anymore ESXi.
ESXi is the actual hypervisor itself. That is your hypervisor operating system. That is what that is called. vSphere is technically their cloud computing platform.
Okay.
So when you have a couple of, or even just one ESXi hypervisor being managed by a vCenter server, that essentially is a vSphere environment.
Okay.
So this is just loading up some stuff here. Let's see if it can size this thing.
Yes, it's not gonna auto fit because it doesn't have the tools.
Ha. No, it's just because I don't have the VM fully maximized out, the initial workstation window. But you'll see it's loading stuff down here. If I was to make this bigger, it probably would.
I mean, it looks like you're running the ESXi with like 4 gigs of memory, so you can actually what's like the minimum requirements for it to run?
Minimum requirements: 4 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs.
Oh wow! And you just gotta make sure, just like Hyper-V, you gotta make sure that the processor support it with hyper-threading and also, Okay.
All right, that's how I did this. Was view. Not what I wanted to do there. Sorry, I'm messing with the window sizes a little bit here, guys. We'll get this right. There we go. It's a little better.
It was Hyper-V, it won't be a problem.
Throwing them little jabs. Okay? Right. All right. so we get here to the installation, right? Make sure you read this stuff. It's letting you know its compatibility, what it's supported on. Go ahead and hit enter. This is a license agreement. Make sure you read that. It's pretty quick. Little F11. So right now it's scanning for available devices, right? It's looking for disks so that we can actually install the operating system. So here we go. It sees my two the disks that I made, the 16 gig and the 100. So the one that's highlighted in yellow is the one that's active. So I want to install it on this first one. So I'll hit enter here. Choose your default keyboard. So for me, it's US default. And then we'll give it a super secret password. Hit enter. It's going to do a little scan. Make sure that it doesn't already detect a presence of ESXi already installed. If it did, it's going to ask you if you want to overwrite it or if you wanted to upgrade it to the new release. Obviously, a lot of people use that method if they don't want to use vCenter Update Manager or use PowerCLI to upgrade it. If any of you guys go onto my GitHub, I do have some PowerCLI commands, which essentially is VMware's PowerShell utility.
Yep.
So they have their own built-in commandlets and stuff like that too. So I've been trying to get a lot more involved in doing some PowerCLI stuff to make things, you know, that much simpler through automation, right? If I can script it all out and just literally kick it off and let it run and do its thing, walk away, grab a cup of coffee, come back, you know, and it's up and running.
Yep.
Why not, right? So we'll see here. It's letting me know that it's going to be configured onto this disk. It's going to repartition it. So we'll go ahead and hit F11 to continue. And then it'll kick this off. And this usually just takes, you know, a couple minutes, you know, maybe, you know, 2 to 3 minutes. Usually not that bad.
Getting a lot of haters on the damn chat. A lot of people going.
What do we got? I haven't been looking, so I was looking at it a little bit while you were doing your demo.
We got a lot of VMware people in here.
Good. Shout out to all my VMware guys. Okay, you guys are awesome.
I'm about to kick people out from the chat.
And listen, guys, Bernardo really is a VMware guy at heart. All right, let's just make that known here. I mean, he's just talking a little bit of smack, but we know.
I got a couple of people that Hyper-V, maybe like 2 people, which is not that bad.
Listen, Hyper-V is a great solution, guys. Like I said, I'm not biased. I'm not going to say that you know Hyper-V is crap compared to VMware, even though that's what I really think in my personal opinion. But I'm not biased. I mean, I have used Hyper-V plenty of times. You know, my personal preference was just to use VMware. That's what I like. It's what I started with. They are pioneers in the company, you know, in that space. You know, they came out, you know, back. I mean, it's been almost 20 years now since, you know, they were founded and released their first product, which was VMware Workstation.
Yep.
And I remember that was, you know, when I first got into virtualization. I mean, I was pretty much, you know, just graduating from high school and stuff like that around that time. God, it makes us feel old, right? We've been out of high school for like 20 years.
Wow.
And you know, the concept of being able to create virtual machines and run computers inside of your computer was like mind-blowing to me at that time, right? And that's really what like sparked that fire underneath me to get into IT, to get into virtualization. That was what really paved the way for me to get into the IT field. Was that. And you know, I just wanted to really dive into it, and it's evolved so much since then. I mean, with the different server platforms, you know, when they came out with GSX was their first initial server platform, and then it came out to ESX, and then it came out with ESXi, and you know, ever since then that's when they started to brand it into vSphere once they created the whole cloud computing, which tied in a whole bunch of different, you know, you have Horizon View, there was like AppWatch, there was, you know, your ESX, all those different components and stuff can make an entire cloud infrastructure, you know, public, private, you know, clouds and stuff like that. So that's where the whole vSphere thing came from.
Yeah, I'm looking at an article right now that I'm going to link it up to the Google Doc, and it kind of breaks down like the pricing between Hyper-V and also post it up real quick for you guys. It gives you a breakdown of the pricing for Hyper-V and VMware, because I mean the pricing is like ridiculous. It really depends on the budget of your job. I mean, if you want to get your feet wet with virtualization and your job can't afford it, but they can afford one, you could do that. So I'm gonna post a link for you guys. Let me see. Real quick.
This is for what, for Hyper-V or for
This is
VM?
for both. It looks like I found an article that does both. I want to show you guys real quick. I'm just updating.
And like I mentioned earlier too, even for VMware, like for anyone who does want to get involved in it, wants to build a little lab, you can register on VMware. You have a free account real quick, and then you can register to obtain a free Hypervisor license.
Yep.
And it won't have all the bells and whistles to it because it's a free license they're giving you. But little FYI, I mean, when you install ESXi, you have a 60-day grace period. So for 60 days, it'll have all the full features as if it was an Enterprise Plus license installed.
Yep.
And afterwards is when you have to actually put that license that they give you in. So if you want to test it out for 60 days and see what it's like with Enterprise Plus and all the bells and whistles, you can do that before you actually have to input that license.
And yep, the same thing goes with Hyper-V as well. You could download the 180-day server edition and play around with it for 180 days and then decide there.
Cool. All right, so this thing looks like it's finished installing, so it's telling me to make sure that I remove the installation media before I reboot. 9 times out of 10 within Workstation, it usually does that for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and double check it if it lets me here. I'm not even going to worry about it right now. I'm just going to go ahead and reboot.
All right, so Alex, while that reboots, I want to share real quick to everyone. Again, this link is at the article. His machine is rebooting and stuff right now. I'm going to show you real quick. It is rebooting. It's almost done rebooting. That's one of the things I love about VMware. Quick reboot. Like right now, it's in reboot right now. But I want to show you guys real quick. I am going to provide the link at the Google Docs. This is the Hyper-V licensing. The standard one is going to cost $13.23. Max Core, you get 16. Right? This gives you a breakdown. But I mean, VMware is like, okay, you got your feet wet. You want to take it to the next level. It's one of the things I don't like about VMware is that if you want standard, which requires vCenter right here, it's going to cost about $1,000, and that's for one core. Only one processor is going to cost this much. If you want to get the enterprise, which is going to give you all those goodies, it's going to cost you this much, and that's for only one core. Plus, I do recommend, if you do go with VMware, budget that basic support or the production support. Budget, you have to add that support, okay? Because you never know if you're new to it, if you don't know what you're doing. VMware support are great. They're there to help you out, but the problem is you have to pay to get that great support.
Yep. And even for people who have small environments, I mean, I've seen this before when I worked in pre-sales and stuff like that too, where you have a little small mom and pop shop that they're running a small VMware infrastructure. There also is a vSphere Essentials.
Yeah.
Kit,
yep.
Right, where you probably, I think it's like, you buy either a year's worth of support or 3 years support. Let's say it's roughly $500-600.
Yeah, it's right here. I'm showing it right now to everyone. You got the Essential Kit, which is going to cost around $495, and then the processor is like 3 servers, 2 processors each. Basic support is going to be $65, and then you got $299/incident, and then you could bump up the Essentials a little bit more, $5,000. And which is not that bad. I do agree with Alex. If you're like a mom and pop shop, you could get the Essential one. It won't put a deep hole in your pocket, but you can still play around with the VMware.
A couple $100, and it gives you a license for I think 3 ESX hosts, and it gives you a vCenter license as well as a vSAN license. Depending on which edition of it that you buy, but that's a good cheap route, for people to go and stuff as well.
Yeah, that's a sweet deal.
So at this point, my host is up and running. So we got an IP address and stuff here. So I want to actually go into the host and just do a couple little quick configs. don't know what happened with my mouse here, but uh,
Hyper-V services
yeah,
integration wouldn't have done that. Well, but that's okay.
there we
It's
go.
okay.
I had clicked off of it, and I was on my PC and never clicked back into the VM. So. So in here, we already made a password, but if you wanted to change it, you can do that. You can enable lockdown mode. This is where you're actually going to come in and configure your management network, give your ESXi host a name. Right now, it's set to DHCP for IP addressing, so I can take that same IP address and make it static. So let's go ahead into the configured network. Right now, it sees that there's only one VM NIC. By default, it's always just going to choose one, and then you have to add the second one, or however many more you want for redundancy. Manually. So we'll go into the network adapters. We can see the 4 NICs here. So I'm going to go down to the next one, hit spacebar to enable that, and hit OK. So now we see there I have 2 networks active. This is for the management network of the ESXi host. Then the other 2, I'll create an actual switch, a secondary switch. I'll bind those 2 other adapters to it, and that'll be for VMs. If you're doing VLAN tagging, right, where you have different VLANs, you're passing multiple different VLANs through a trunk, and this is connected to that, you're going to have to obviously provide the VLAN tag, right? In this case, I don't need to do that. Essentially, this is like as if I'm connected to an access port rather than a trunk. So an access port is only allowing a single VLAN to go through that port. So you would not use VLAN tagging then in that case, right? So I can bypass that. IPv4 configuration, we'll hit enter. Like I said before, by default, it's on DHCP. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this to static, and I'll just leave the same information that's here. Mind you, this is VMware Workstation that this is running on. So the gateway by default in Workstation is always a .2 address. The .1 address is actually for the adapter that your local PC uses to communicate with the VM. So we'll leave that, hit enter. IPv6 is always enabled too by default. If you turn this off, if you go in here and disable it, it'll require a reboot. I'm just going to leave it on so we don't have to reboot the host again. So I'll hit escape to get out of there. We'll go to DNS configuration. Again, it's using the DNS server of VMware Workstation, but otherwise this is where you would want to change this and list your actual DNS servers in your environment for your domain. So the only other thing I'm going to do here is actually change my host name. So let's just call this like VESXi01. V for virtualized ESXi. I like to use a fully qualified name, so let's just call this like itv.lab for iThinkVirtual. And then, so we'll see that here. You see the information and stuff. We'll go down to custom DNS suffixes. Right now, by default, it uses local domain. So I'm going to change this also to itv.lab. Hit OK. In my domain controller, I also have my, actually, you know what? I think I made this TSR lab. So let me change this to TSR for the demo, so we make sure we have it all right. TSR.lab. Again, shout out to all you guys who are still sticking with us through the stream.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, man. We wouldn't be here without you guys, so we really appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for chatting, keeping the chat strong, asking questions. A lot of you are replying back. Thank you so much. We do appreciate it. I'm checking you guys out while you guys check out Alex and try to answer as much as possible.
All right, so once I'm all done, I go ahead and hit escape, and then it's going to ask me to make sure that I want to apply these changes, and it's going to quickly restart the management network. It's not an actual reboot of the server itself. It's just the management interface. So I'll go ahead and hit Y for yes, and it did its thing. It backed out. So now at this part, normally we would go here to like test your management network, make sure that it's communicating. I know it's going to work, so I'm just going to bypass that. But best practice, always make sure that you are communicating on your network, make sure that that works. So at this point, I can go ahead and back out, and my ESXi server is up and running. So I will go ahead now and open up a browser, and I have my appliance up and running, my vCenter appliance. If you guys want to see what the vCenter, this is the VAMI, right, the Virtual Appliance Management Interface, what it looks like when you first install any appliance, usually they have a VMware interface. So we're going to log in as root and my super secret password. And this is your interface. You can see that everything is up and running. It's all good. You can go in here and enable shell access, SSH, so that you can use PuTTY if you needed to SSH into the appliance. You can do some, you can see, network status and stuff like that, monitoring. Configure your time server. I set it for the East Coast, New York, which is where we are. And server full NTP. As new updates come out for the VMware vCenter server appliance, they made this so much easier now in this appliance where you can literally just go to this update section. You would go here and say check for updates from the repository, or if you already downloaded the update as an ISO, you can check, and it's mounted to the VM. You can check the CD-ROM drive of it. So we'll just do, check the repo. There shouldn't be anything out. I'm running the latest, so it shows here latest updates already applied to the VCSA.
And Alex, I don't want to cut you off, but I think you have this information already posted up at iThinkVirtual.com, correct?
I might not have this stuff on there, but if I don't, look for it soon. It will be coming up soon.
Awesome. And again, guys, please check out Alex Lopez, iThinkVirtual.com. I'm gonna put the link at the chat. It's a must bookmark. I have it bookmarked. Please go check it out. I'm constantly at his site all the time, learning new things with VMware. I do apologize, Alex, for
no worries, and I appreciate that feedback and stuff too. I mean, likewise, also check out Bernardo's website. Was it BJ Tech News?
Yeah, BJ Tech News.
Right. So make sure you go there. I have it bookmarked as well too. I check out his his blog. I mean, we support each other, and we greatly appreciate you guys on the other end supporting us as well. So please do visit our sites. You can join via email. You can add it to like Feedly or any of your little, feed apps that you might have, so you always get the newest, latest, greatest updates whenever we do post something. We have, in the Discord, every time we post a blog or something like that, it automatically gets posted into the Discord channels. So there's a few different ways that you guys can go in there and, make sure you stay up to date and follow us and stuff. But we greatly appreciate it. So please do show some support because, we wouldn't be doing this without you guys. So to go back here, just real quick to wrap this part up, you have administration, you set a password. By default, this root password is set to yes, and it expires every 90 days. I decided just to turn it off because this is just a demo lab, so I didn't need to worry about that. syslog, config information, CPU and memory. We could see, how this VM is responding. Obviously, remember, I am double nesting my environment, so obviously you are going to see some spikes in CPU usage at times, but right now it looks like it's running fairly low. So we're actually performing pretty well in a nested environment. And this is the database information, within the VCSA, right? So anytime that you start adding stuff to your environment, obviously this database will grow a little bit. So it is using some space, right? So that's the VMware interface. This is the actual Adobe Flash version interface of the web client. So I don't have any Windows authentication yet. I didn't create any dedicated users and add it as a default group. So we're going to log in with the local, which is administrator. The local SSO is administrator at vsphere.local. And then my super secret password. Oh, and I got that wrong.
It's okay. You can tell everyone the password. Hyper-V is the best.
No, it was a typo. Look up here. I put the H before the P.
Oh.
That's what it was.
But we all know the password. It's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's
I wouldn't share. I could share it with you guys because it's just a demo lab. Like,
yeah,
I'm literally going to delete this whole thing once we're done. So
yeah, it's Hyper-V is the best, number one.
Yeah,
that's the password. That's okay.
Hyper-V is poop. Bang! exclamation mark. So this is the one thing I don't like about the Flash. It is going to be legacy. There is a newer version. There's an HTML5 version that now comes with the VCSA 6.5.
Yeah.
Not fully featured yet. So there are certain tasks where I need to go back and use this version of the web client
Yeah, but I think me and you not too long ago got together and we had like a conference meeting together, and you was showing me the HTML5 stuff, and I just fell in love with it. The interface looks much cleaner. It's just it's so neat.
And it's fast because it's HTML5. You don't have to worry about Flash and stuff like that. But it's not fully featured. And like I said, if you go onto the VMware Flings website, they do actually have, that's where it originally started at, was as a Fling. VMware bought into it, they adopted it, and then started to put it into their platform. So the Fling is always going to be a couple steps ahead of the version that's actually comes with vCenter.
Yeah.
So you can have this version that comes with vCenter and then stand up a separate appliance from the Fling and use that one instead of the native one. But yeah, it's really up to you. So I'll show you that as well too. I have both of them. So we'll go over here, same login. If I could type. You see how much faster that one just logs in? It's right there.
Look at that. That's awesome.
Clean interface.
That's one of the things I would love to see Microsoft come out with. And they do have Project Honolulu, but I haven't tested out if Project Honolulu works with Hyper-V, because Project Honolulu is a web-based kind of application. But I think if Microsoft adds that web GUI the way that VMware has, I mean, like what do you call the Microsoft? They're what?
They're Me Too company. So, all right, we'll go here. So at this point, what I'll do is we'll create a data center, let's say, right? We'll call this TSR, right? TSR data center. And then within TSR data center, we'll add a host.
So you always need to create a data center first.
You don't. You can actually just add the host, but if you want to have a cluster of hosts, you need to create a data center.
Okay.
Really, I mean, you create the data center so that you can have multiple different locations.
Okay.
That would be the purpose. Like if you had, an East Coast, a New York location, you had a California, Los Angeles location, you would separate them by different data centers.
Okay.
And then from within there, you create a cluster, and then you put whatever host for that respective location in that cluster.
Cool.
So in here, let me just make sure I have the name right. I almost believe if I did make that. Okay, so I just have the VCSA. So let's go ahead and add this record for this host real quick. So it's VESXi01 TSR lab, and this was 192.168.88. What did it give me? 88.128. We'll add that. Okay, I'll ignore that for now. Don't have to worry about that. So if I go here, 01 tsr.lab.
And it's the same thing. Like if you're dealing with VMware and Hyper-V, it just makes sense to use fully qualified domain names. It just makes life so easy rather than doing IP addresses, because if you have all your hosts or all your Hyper-V managers with 192, you're like, what the hell is that? So make sure that your DNS server is working correctly so everything just makes sense. So when someone logs into the manager, they see, ESXi01 or vhost02. It just makes sense rather than a bunch of numbers.
Exactly. I got the right thing here. It might be having some communication issues trying to talk with this host. Let's try by IP real quick. Make sure I got my password right for that. Doesn't seem like it wants to be adding it there. I mean, maybe I messed something up in the networking, but That would be how you add it. It would show up in here anyway. Let's
Yep.
just try it in the original one real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on this part. Yeah, this should have popped up already. But remember, I'm using a double nested environment, so it's probably having a network hiccup, or I may have fat fingered something. I don't want to waste too much time on it. So we can also open up a browser and go to the address, right?
Yeah, you could go to the hypervisor itself, because the hypervisor with the latest VMware 6.5, they have their own web interface.
Yep. And this actually started off as a fling as well, which was called the ESXi Embedded Host UI, or ESXi Host UI, because they deprecated the FAT client, the C# vSphere client.
That beautiful client, I love.
I used to love it. It was really fast, but you know what? I got so familiar with using the web client that I started using it a lot more, and I loved it.
Yeah, but I think when did they kill the client? Did they kill the client?
6.5.
In 6.5?
Yep.
Oh, so they brought the web GUI around 6.0. Does 6.0 still work with the client?
6.0 still works with the actual FAT client. Anything that's 6.0 or previous still works with the legacy FAT client.
So if you're using 6.5, the client won't work at all.
Right. Once you got to, I believe there was a certain build number within 6.5, that you could still use the FAT client to manage your ESXi host, but it would still give you like warnings as to things that wouldn't work right anymore within there. But it would not allow you to connect to a vCenter at all.
Got it.
And then once ESXi reached a certain build, it no longer supported the FAT client anymore. So we can see in here, this is the user interface to manage your actual host. So if you wanted to go in here, you could start making virtual machines. This is your storage where I'd go in here. It already sees, data store 1. This is the remaining 8.5 gigs that's left over on that initial hard drive that I installed ESXi onto. So if I wanted to, I can go here and create a new VMFS data store. We'll just call this data store 2. It sees the 100 gig. We'll tell it to use the full disk, and this is the new VMFS 6 file system. That's what this stands for, VMware File System 6. And one of the good benefits about VMFS 6 now is that it does space reclamation. So like when you delete a virtual machine, it'll go in there and it'll write those blocks back out and reclaim that space, so it's not using it as dead space anymore. So for anyone like with an SSD, which I have this configured as an SSD, it's similar to like trim, if you're familiar with trim commands on an SSD. So we'll see that it's using that whole full disk. The entire contents is going to be erased and replaced.
So that means when you delete a virtual machine within EXI, you're not going to see that orphan kind of thing anymore. It just removes it for you.
What's that?
Because I've seen like when you delete a virtual machine, it has like orphan or something next to it, and it's like italics, and it's like not
it's grayed out and italicized. No, that's not bad. Usually when an orphaned VM is usually like your storage went down, like a path down situation or something like that, and it disconnected from your shared storage network.
Okay.
So it orphaned the VM, or you removed the storage without first removing the VM from vCenter or something like that.
Got it.
You'll see that as orphaned. So you actually have to go in like with a back end way to try to remove that.
Okay.
Like if you actually went in there and like deleted the VM from disk, did it the proper way, it'll then go into that storage and reclaim that space.
Got it.
So if we go here to networking, we could see our management switch, right? And then by default, it always creates a VM network on that management switch. And on the management switch, we went here, we can see our 2 uplinks that are connected to that switch. If I go back here, what I like to do usually is delete this one.
Is there a particular reason? Is that best practice of deleting the VM network?
It is best practice because you want your management network separate and the switch separate from what your VMs are going to be running on.
Got it.
So what I'll do is actually create a secondary switch, right? So I'll add a new standard switch, and we'll just call this vSwitch 1 since the other one is vSwitch 0. And you can change MTU values and stuff. We'll see here, it's going to let us select one of the remaining 2 uplinks. So I'll just select that first one and do add. And then if I go back to this one, I can go and add a second uplink to it, and it'll allow me to pick up the next one here. Mind you guys, I'm just using the host UI because it wouldn't join into my vCenter. I may have messed something up, so. But same process, you could do all this stuff as well through the vCenter server and stuff. I'll get it working. Maybe in a future episode, you know, I can show something, or I'll post some screenshots in the notes, you know, once we share those notes out to show you that it actually is working and stuff like that. So now I have that second switch created. I'll go back to port groups then, and I'll add a new port group. So we'll just call this again VM network. I'm not using any VLAN, so I don't need to worry about tagging. I'll select my new switch here, and we'll hit add. And now I have my second switch with my VMware network. And now if I wanted to go here and say create a new virtual machine, you know, I can create a new one, and I could tell it, you know, give it some random name, you know, give it a, you know, Linux operating system. Let's just say it's, you know, CentOS 7. Pick the second data store where I'm going to save that VM. And then in here, you know, I can choose my options. And it sees here the network adapter I want is the VM network. So it already knows that there's that port group associated for virtual machines. And I could literally hit next and just next my way through it. Show you everything here, hit finish. And there's my shell for that virtual machine. And then I would attach an ISO to it and power it on and start my installation of a virtual machine. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Getting, you know, ESXi up and running. I mean, that obviously is the most crucial part of any VMware environment. You have to have a hypervisor in order to be able to run virtual machines. Mm-hmm. I know it is kind of trivial. It's really not that hard to set up an ESXi host, but there are people out there who have never done this sort of thing mm-hmm. before. So hopefully, you know, you guys have found that to be useful.
I mean, if you're able to create, I think the first step is just downloading the ISO. You know, create a free VMware account. That's like your first step. Create that. That's easy. And just once you do that, you find the vSphere and then download it, the free version. When you download the ISO, they give you the license. And again, like Alex suggested or stated, that I believe, what is it, 60 or 90 days that you have
60-day eval.
60-day eval with all the features, all the goodies to just test out before you enter your license. And, you know, when you install it, you know, all you gotta do is just figure out a way to create a bootable bootable USB.
Yep, and you can use Rufus. I mean, that's a great little utility to make a bootable USB.
I use it all the time. It is very awesome. You just put a flash drive, point the ISO within Rufus. You pick your USB, and it does the rest. Walk away, go get a cup of coffee, come back, and it's done. You take it. Make sure you have a machine that's capable of handling the operating system. You know, like Alex suggested, the min requirements for memory is what, 4 gigs, and processors is how many?
2.
2. And just make sure that the processor is supported for hyper-threading as well as Intel VT, and I believe also with AMD VT, I believe it is.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Just make sure that the processor is capable of handling virtualization.
Yep, I think this wasn't working for me because my DNS lookup was wrong, my reverse DNS. Let me just try this real quick and see. So now if I go back to my forward lookup and I add, hopefully it works this time, right?
Just wondering, what operating system are you using to host your VM workstation?
It is a VMware. Well, which one? My nested one or my actual PC?
The actual PC, the one that's housing everything.
So my main PC, I'm running Windows 10 Enterprise, and then the virtual machine that I'm doing this demo lab is actually a
Windows 10 Enterprise. You know, Windows 10 has Hyper-V Manager in it.
It does.
It's
probably you have to have. I don't think it comes with Pro. I think you have to have at least Enterprise or something.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you know.
Yeah, you have to have the Enterprise. Enterprise is the one that the Hyper-V Manager thing. I haven't tested out Pro because normally at my 9 to 5 job as well as my my lab, I normally just use Enterprise, Windows 10 Enterprise, because that's what I push out to my users, and I need to get familiar with that operating system. And like I think I mentioned in the Discord, I just recently found out that my job, my 9 to 5 job, has a license for Windows 10 LTSB, which is the best Windows 10 operating system in the world, because it just doesn't have all that crap like the Xbox app,
Yep.
the Skype. It is so, it's clean. It makes my life so easy. I don't need to customize scripts to remove this or create GPOs. It's a great operating system. For those individuals that are pushing out Windows 10 with SCCM or MDT, I recommend to look into Windows 10 LTSB because it will make your life so easy.
Yep. The only caveat I'll say to that is that the LTSB version, I was looking into it. It's still running the anniversary update. So
yeah, it's running 1609.
Right, or 1607 or whatever.
Yeah, 1609 or 1607, because I actually have the machine that I'm running. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to switch real quick, okay? So I'm going to switch real quick. And the machine that is housing my Windows 10, machine on my Hyper-V, right here, this machine right here, I'm going to do a run, and I'm going to do a VER. And this is running 1607. So you were correct, Alex. 1607. So Windows 10, this is the LTB version. And I think if I right click and go to System, it should tell me LTBS. But one of the cool things about this is, look at this. I don't have the Microsoft Store. I don't have all that crap. The only thing that I might have to do within my deployment is OneDrive. Remove OneDrive. They even give you Paint. Right?
Yeah, they give you. I like that they cleaned it up and actually just give you what you need, and stuff for it. But
it makes life so easy, especially for those individuals that have Windows 10 Enterprise and they have all that crapware. That means you have to like create a bunch of GPOs. You have to figure out a way to disable Microsoft from downloading like Crush Candy, Skype, and what is it, Note, and all that other crap you don't need.
That they put in there that is just really not necessary for the enterprise. It's something, Bernardo, that I wanted to cover too real quick that we probably both didn't touch on. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not familiar with it with Hyper-V if it has it, but in VMware is templates.
Oh yeah, it has templates, but. And I have to give it to VMware because VMware makes this extremely easy to create templates. With creating templates within Hyper-V, which I created multiple videos within my channel. I will place the link for you guys at the Google Docs. You have to create a virtual machine, shut it down, right-click on it. You have to locate the physical VHD file, rename that. Well, you have to SIP prep it, rename it, relocate it somewhere else. And that's how you create your virtual machine from a template.
Yeah,
now,
that's really
it's a pain. It's very complicated, and I know VMware is super simple, right? I know with VMware you could create the virtual machine, create the VMware, add the VMware tools, right click on it, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there's an option that says clone to template or something like that, right?
You can clone it. Well, you can first just convert it to a template.
Yep.
Or if you wanted to clone it to a new machine as another template, you can clone it directly to a template, as another machine. But I use it all the time. I mean, even when I do for physical machines, I mean, I use VMware to create my golden image. I don't put VMware tools in any of my templates. I'll let VMware tools get installed afterwards, just so that I can have it for purpose use like that, right? But, I'll install Windows, then I'll automatically boot it into system audit mode. I'll do all of my configurations that I want to do and stuff like that. I'll sys prep it, capture it, with DISM command. So I have my base WIM file. I can use that now for ISOs or for doing physical machines. And then otherwise, I will just shut it down, convert it to a template. You can also create configuration specifications within VMware, within vCenter. And there you can actually tell that to do your sys prep for you. give it a certain name that you want, join it to a certain network. You can even attach a script to it,
Yep.
let it run a script that boot and stuff like that. So literally, like you kick off, installation, it'll clone the VM to another machine. It'll name it for you. It'll assign the right network adapter, give it an IP address, join it to your domain, the whole 9 yards. You walk away for 5-10 minutes, come back, and your machine's up and running. So another benefit to using VMware right there. Gotta love it.
Yeah, Hyper-V makes it extremely difficult making templates. It's just a pain in the butt. You have to do a lot of configuration. You got to go and find the original VHD or the VHDX file and then change the name and then relocate it. It's a pain in the butt. Don't get me wrong. Once everything is done, it's super simple. You locate it, bam, 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 and then you're good to go. But, I mean, it gets much easier if you take advantage of System Center Virtual Machine Manager, which is part of the System Center lineup. If you use SCCM, if you use SCOM, if you use Service Manager, there's a lot of System Center. It's an entire suite. But one of the applications is Virtual Machine Manager. Believe it or not, Virtual Machine Manager 2006 is capable of hosting and managing VMware hypervisors.
Yep, and it has been for a while, actually. I thought they removed that functionality, but...
Yeah, but the new version has gotten much better. I mean, you're able to manage everything in one console. I have it at my 9-to-5 job, and I love it. I normally have it up and running with all my hypervisors. You don't get that same feel with the vCenter, appliance like Alex showed us, but it's just one shot, especially if you you're housing Hyper-V and VMware. It's great to have one console to see everything.
Yep. And that's like their management platform, right? That's essentially their vCenter server equivalent, right? Is the Virtual Machine Manager. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
Platform, great utility to use. Anybody who does use Hyper-V, highly advise it. You make sure you do that. I mean, it is a requirement in order to be able to manage your host.
Yeah, that does. That's true. Look at that. I didn't even think about that. Virtual Machine Manager is the same concept as vCenter. And creating templates within that console is super easy. It's just like right-clicking and just cloning. It's much easy than doing it the hard way, finding the file, renaming it. One of the best things about VMware, they give it to you. The option is already there.
Yep.
But I don't think you're able to clone within the hypervisor. You need to have vCenter.
You have to have a vCenter in order to be able to clone a machine, to another machine.
Now, is there a way to create a clone for those individuals that can't afford vCenter? There's ways to do it, right? It's just it takes a little bit more work.
I'm pretty sure there are ways to do it. I mean, another thing that you can obviously do is like if you copied the files off of your data store and made a different folder and re-uploaded them into a different folder and then re-registered that VM. As basically the same name, but you can choose a different name when you re-register a virtual machine. So
because I think VM Workstation does the same thing. It prompts you, did you copy this or did you move it?
Right. So, VMware Workstation will allow you the ability to clone a virtual machine. So you can always do that and stuff as well, right? You can even access your ESXi host, your vCenter server from Workstation. So if you don't have, like, let's say a dedicated vCenter server, but you want to use a different type of a platform to be able to manage a bunch of hosts, you can literally access your host from VMware Workstation or from Fusion. It has that ability to connect to a server, and you can use that Type 2 interface, Type 2 hypervisor interface to connect to that machine and launch those machines, those VMs right on your VMware Workstation.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's sweet.
It's got, it's got its perks. I mean, like I said, both of them are great, solid hypervisor platforms. I'm a VMware guru. I mean, that's what I like. So I'm always going to, try to get people to use that instead. But like I said, you guys use your own discretion, choose whatever you guys feel is the best for your needs. There is a learning curve with both platforms. So whichever one, you feel that is the best for you and the easiest for you, I mean, so be it, use that one.
I mean, it's multiples out there. I've seen a couple of you guys mentioning VirtualBox. That's another hypervisor as well. You got Citrix, Zen Server. You have, what's the other one? You got Citrix. You got VMware. You got Microsoft. You have VirtualBox.
Well, Oracle's VirtualBox, right?
Yeah. I think the Linux operating system have their own
Isn't like some KVM?
It's like KVM. They have other ones. I think I did a couple of shows and videos for you guys showing you how to create virtual machines within the Linux platforms using the tools. So there's a lot of open source as well as virtualization applications that you have to pay. But I mean, get yourself out there. This is what a lot of jobs are looking for. You know, it's easy to create a lab, test stuff out. You break it, you know what? Search it. Try to find one of us. Go to the Discord. A lot of us are there helping each other out. Ask questions, you know.
Exactly.
But just go out there, find something. It doesn't have to be Hyper-V. It doesn't have to be VMware. I know a couple of people from Discord are using VirtualBox, and they love it. They love it. They know when we start shooting out like terms to them, they already understand what we're talking about because they got their feet wet with VirtualBox, and VirtualBox is free.
Yeah.
You know, so take advantage of it.
It's another great platform. I mean, like I said, you know, you guys use your own discretion and choose whatever is the best platform for your use case and for your needs, right? Whether that be VirtualBox or, you know, Zen Server, Zen Desktop, you know, VMware ESXi, Hyper-V, you want to use VMware, you know, their Type 2s, you know, Workstation, Player, Fusion. I mean, you have options.
It's a lot of them. And then you could basically use, well, VMware is very, very versatile because you could use it within Linux, Mac, as well as a Windows platform. Or with Hyper-V, you're pretty stuck with using a Windows operating system. You know, that's where, you know, Hyper-V is kind of stuck. They're still stuck in that era.
Yeah,
but
in order to use Windows.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that Microsoft, it's a pain. Yeah. But I mean, we're going strong. It's an hour and 55 minutes. We had a lot of people. We had a lot of fun, Alex.
Likewise. Yeah, this was great, man. I mean, hopefully this is, you know, the first of many more to come. You know, guys, we appreciate you, you know, sticking it out through it, you know, with us.
Yeah.
You know, we get a bunch of guys that are from the UK, so I'm sure, you know, they're 6 to 8 hours ahead of where we are.
I know,
now.
that is nuts.
10 o'clock p.m. on the East Coast for us. So, like, I know Ben King, he's out there. I know Amja's in the chat as well. I know he's out there in the UK. So we really appreciate you guys, you know, spending the time here with us and enjoying this feed with us. And hopefully, you know, we can provide more to you guys. Do show us some love, some support. Like I said, you know, we wouldn't be here without you guys, you know, being here to support us and stuff. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Again, I'm going to try to push out something in 2 weeks, maybe next week. I don't know. Me and Alex are working closely together. Where it's all about BTNHD and iThinkVirtual, or iThinkVirtual and BTNHD. It doesn't matter which one comes first. We're a family, we're brothers, and at the end, it's all about the server room. Again, we're both talking behind the scenes, and most likely you're gonna see him again and again and again, providing more good content to you guys live. Like he said, I appreciate every one of you joining us today. Hopefully you guys learned something new. If you haven't done so, make sure you go to Alex Lopez YouTube channel. Subscribe over there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below for me.
Follow me on Twitter. You know,
Twitter, we're everywhere. We are everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, everywhere.
Join the Discord. You know, I'm gonna make a Facebook page, you know, that's dedicated like for that. But you know, at Twitter, it's iVirtualAlex is my handle. You know, feel free to follow me there and stuff like that. You know, chat with me. Join the Discord. You know, we have links on our pages that you can use, and literally, it's an invite right into our Discord server. So go ahead and join and stuff like that. Be active. Come talk to us. You know, and the more we get feedback from you guys, the more it's going to make us want to provide more content for you guys as well. So we hope that, you know, you find it useful, beneficial, and like I said, we can't thank you enough, you know, for joining us and sitting here with us and letting us kind of duke it out with the hypervisor. So I did put, you know, a poll up on the Discord channel. So please do let us know your thoughts on there and stuff as well. Even if you can't post in one of the channels, do it in one of the other ones, maybe like the general channel as well. Let us know what your preferred hypervisor is of the ones that, you know, we opted to, you know, consider. And, you know, let us know who you feel won the battle of the hypervisors. You know, I mean, which one you like better and stuff like that. It's all fun and games. You know, none of us are biased towards one or the other.
Yeah,
so.
Yep, I agree with Alex. It's all fun and games. We're not here like, you know, I'm not gonna yell at him and hate him. It's, you know, it's whatever. You know, it's all fun and games. It
doesn't pay me to come on here and talk about VMware and stuff like that. It's just what I like to use. You know, I love their platform. You know, and
Just supporting what you love, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I got you. All right, guys. So we're going to end it right here. Again, make sure you guys join the free Discord if you have any other questions. I want to give a big round of applause to Alex Lopez from iThinkVirtual for joining me today for
Thank you.
episode 40, episode 40, the Battle of the Hypervisors. I'm super excited. I'm still super excited to have you here. For all those individuals that stayed up late with us and early in the morning, thank you so much. And I catch you guys on the next one. So like always, how in the hell do I end this? Is it this button?
Is it this? Wait,
is it this one? Did you finish it, Alex?
I think I'm done. Wait.
Is it done?
Nope.
All right, guys. I catch you guys later.
Thanks again, man.